welcome back to another episode of the KNL Sports Huddle. I'm Cage Kiplinger, your host, joined as always by my co-host Logan Hubert. Got another good episode with another NFL division preview for you today, and we're going to be finishing up the AFC, so we're going to give our playoff picks as well. And then we have a nice little remembrance for a former star in wrestling as he passed away last week. But first off, how are we doing today, Logan?
All right, I think I'm dealing with a sneeze tease right now, so if I blow it out here in a second, don't be startled. But other
No
than that, I'm
worries.
doing well. I'm doing well.
No worries, man. Let's hurry up and get through what missed the cut. First off, Justin Fields was carted off the field at Jets training camp, and he was reported to have a day-to-day toe injury. So we'll keep our eyes on that one. For Jets fans, I'm just sorry that any little hope that you had for this season could be going away, but it doesn't seem like it's that serious. So I think he'll be ready to go week one.
Does not help that he will be playing on MetLife turf, though.
Right, and that's just bound to get more turf toe on that. Um, Defensive back Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, announced his retirement from the NFL. He was a 3-time first-team All-Pro and was named to the All-Decade team last decade. Also played at LSU, so he had a pretty nice little college career with the Tigers. And speaking of an SEC school, Big Ten media days, they came after the SEC, or at least one guy did, and that was Kurt Cignetti, the IU football coach. When asked about canceling the Virginia series this year, he said that they adopted an SEC scheduling philosophy. So coming right after those SEC schools, and my quick thought on this is, wasn't this one of the main points of the expanded playoff, that we wouldn't have these types of schedules where teams just play Old Dominion and Kennesaw State at the beginning of the year? That we'd actually schedule some tough games, some tough non-conference games, because one loss isn't going to hurt you. Now, IU had an incredible season last year, and most years with that schedule that they had, they would have gone 6-6. But come on. And then finally, let's cap things off with Nikola Jokic, the star center for the Denver Nuggets. I saw a video. He was brought to tears by his horse winning a race in Serbia in one of their events over there. He looked happier than he did when he won the NBA championship. So any quick thoughts on those before we head on to our preview?
Yeah, for the college football scheduling thing, I understand why he's doing it. Like, I remember talking just a few weeks back about the NBA, how I'm a fan of guys until they make rule changes, just take advantage of the system. That's what I say. And as long as they they don't really factor in strength of schedule in the college football playoff, I don't blame Cignetti or any other Big Ten, or frankly even the SEC schools, for doing that. Is it right? No. Should the NCAA do something about it? Yes. And it's also, I don't think it's a great thing for Indiana. Yes, it's 3 automatic wins, but I mean, it's going to be, I know they're going to be good, but it's going to be harder to fill those seats up in the stadium when you're playing Indiana State, Kennesaw State, Ball State, or whoever, Old Dominion, whoever they're playing.
Yeah.
And it's not like they canceled Alabama or Georgia, who they were going to play. It was Virginia. Like that's a great non-conference game, because it's 2 usually middle of the pack to bottom tier teams. Obviously, IU was great last year, but on average, middle of the pack to bottom tier teams from different conferences playing each other, a home and home series. I think that's good for the sport, and it bring more fans out, bring more excitement in the non-conference schedule. I wouldn't want to play a juggernaut in the non-conference,
right,
unless you yourself are a juggernaut, because that's just signing up for a loss, automatic loss. But yeah, I mean, this goes back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago, how it would be great if they scheduled like a conference versus conference game in the college football in the non-conference part.
Yeah, schedule somebody that's on equal playing field like they had with the Virginia. I mean, Ohio State's playing Texas, two big
Yeah,
juggernauts.
that's
Like,
two juggernauts. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Maybe
Purdue's playing Notre Dame, and I hate that. That's not good for Purdue's program. It's an automatic loss for them. But I believe they have Wake Forest on their schedule too, and I think that's a good home and home matchup. That's
right.
two middle of the road teams on average in their conference, and I think that's how every team should be in the major conferences.
Maybe IU's decision had a little bit to do with the fact that they have to go to Eugene, Oregon, and go to Happy Valley. So maybe I cut them a little bit of slack. But if they won all their other games outside of those two, I wonder if they make the college football playoff. We'll see. But let's move on to the NFL. We've got another division preview. It is the AFC West. So Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs, and Raiders. I think the one thing that stands out just from an overview of this conference is that, yeah, we got some pretty nice quarterbacks when it's headlined by Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. Bo Nix seemed to really, light a spark with the Denver Broncos last year as they made the playoffs. And then now we've got Geno Smith, who may not have a high ceiling, but he has a pretty high floor. He's one of those high floor quarterbacks that is consistent. But this is a division all about the coaches. I mean, you have 4 Hall of Fame coaches in this division with Andy Reid, of course, on the Kansas City Chiefs, Jim Harbaugh with the Los Angeles Chargers, and then now you've got Pete Carroll coming in and being the Las Vegas Raiders coach, and you already have Sean Payton with the Broncos. So it is packed full of experience. They've all succeeded on both levels. Obviously Harbaugh doing what he did with Michigan, but this is an incredible division, and it was really hard for me to pick a winner in this division. What do you think of just like an overview looking at these teams?
Yeah, you're exactly right on the coaches. 3 of them are Super Bowl winners. The other went to a Super Bowl, but has also won a national championship at the college level. So, yeah, 4 truly elite coaches, which makes the division that much more interesting, and it makes it much tougher to win compared to some other divisions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, historically, Kansas City has won, I believe, 8 or 9 in a row. Yeah, they've won 9 years in a row, so they're going for a 10-peat this year. And I mean, you could argue this is one of the years where they're going to have their toughest challenge yet to defend in the Mahomes era, at least. They won a couple of those with Alex Smith at quarterback, but yeah, this year the AFC West will lock in the battles with the NFC East and the AFC South. So, yes, that does mean there will be a Super Bowl rematch in week 2, I believe, Chiefs versus Eagles.
Yep.
So, yeah, playing those divisions and when you're playing against each other kind of factors into strength of schedule. They're all right there smack dab in the middle. Broncos have the 15th hardest schedule, Chargers 12th, Chiefs 11th, Raiders 16th. So right there in the middle of the pack. Yeah, like I said, big factors are playing each other, and 3 of those teams made the playoffs. And then you're also playing the NFC East, who had 2 teams make their conference championship respectively. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the end.
Yeah, let's go one by one like we've been doing. We'll start with the Denver Broncos. They finished last season at 10-7. Probably would have been 9-8 if not for the Chiefs resting all of their guys in Week 18, which cut the Bengals from the playoffs. So this was a team no one thought would make the playoffs in Bo Nix's first year. It was one of those surprise teams that you see, like the Commanders last year or the Texans from 2 years ago. It was a nice surprise considering where they were a year prior under the Russell Wilson tenure. But this season, I think it'll be interesting to see what the jump is for Bo Nix in year 2, because he didn't have the outstanding season that Jaden Daniels did. So I don't see it as a year where he's going to regress maybe, and what I expect Daniels would do this year. So I think this team could be even better. What do you think just off the jump?
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. People talking about if he was going to have a sophomore slump or whatever. Just the way he plays, the way he played last year, just the way he plays in general, it's not like a recipe for a sophomore slump.
Right.
I mean, he was the ultimate game manager, which you rarely see from a rookie, but he pulled it off. Um, yeah, you see guys like Jaden Daniels, we don't know yet. He could be fabulous this year. We don't know. But CJ Stroud, dynamic rookie quarterback, kind of had a sophomore slump. So, yeah, I don't see him regressing at all. He might not get any better, but if he plays consistent like he did in the second half of last year, I think this team could be really, really good because they arguably have the best or top three defense in the entire NFL. Um, really, top down, you look at their D line, linebackers, and secondary, you really can't point to a weakness overall. And you could maybe say corner opposite Pat Surtain. Well, that's what they used their first round pick on. So, but every other position, like Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper off the edge, they're getting Alex Singleton back from
Yep.
injury. And they signed Dre Greenlaw from the 49ers in the offseason. So, I mean, yeah, if Bo Nix doesn't improve at all, it's the same offense. Because I'm not a huge fan of their skill positions, but their defense is good enough to keep them right above 500. And if Bo Nix elevates his game a little bit, this could be 11 to 12 win team, I believe. And I think they could also be Kansas City's biggest challenger. I actually kind of disagree. I don't know if Kansas City would have won that Denver game because I almost think Denver is more built to beat them. Because if you recall, I mean, obviously we'll talk about the Chiefs later, but they had so many lucky games last year. But arguably their luckiest, they were at home against Denver, and this is before the Broncos were peaking. I mean, Denver had every right to win that game if they wouldn't have missed a 35-yard field goal to win it. And that was at Kansas City.
Yeah.
So I think the way Denver's defense is built, I think it's built to not make Kansas City's offense explode. I think they can hamper their offense some. And if Bo Nix just at least keeps it how he was last year, I think this team could be really dangerous.
Yeah, and Sean Payton is one of the best coaches in the league, and he got his guy with Nix. The comparisons that he made for Nix to Drew Brees, obviously Brees and Payton were together for many, many years in New Orleans. Will Bo Nix be that good? I don't know that we can predict that kind of trajectory for him, but he's definitely got a lot of skills. You know, his ability to move, get outside the pocket. He might have been the best rushing quarterback out of the six that were drafted last year. You know, he between him and Daniels, they both were electric on the ground. But then he also had games when he would really fling it. He had a couple games when it was that I believe it was a Monday night game that he really let loose and really showed his potential in the air game. So I think, you know, like you said, the Broncos, they made some moves on the defensive side. They're getting Singleton back. This defense, which was one of the best in the league last year, I think could be even better. And so that's scary for opposing offenses, and especially in this division. So what are you looking at for their over-unders?
Well, I will also say their offense, like I said, Cortland Sutton's is a wide receiver one, but he's a low tier wide receiver one.
Right.
They signed Evan Ingram in the offseason. If he can replicate what he did with Jacksonville in his first year, that could be decent. But other than that, I mean, it's not a spectacular skill group by any means.
No.
So
They found something with Mims, I think. I think Payton unlocked something there.
Yeah, potentially. But it might not be the most entertaining football to watch if you're a fan of flashy offense and all that. But I think the way they're built, they can win a lot of games. But do you have their over under at 9.5? Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah.
I really like this team. I'm going with the over. I do believe they could win 10 to 11 games, potentially even 12. I will say though, I was looking at their season. They ended the year, and this can make or break their playoff chances. They end the year at Kansas City and then home against the Chargers, which are arguably their two biggest competitors in the division.
Right.
No disrespect to the Raiders, but that's just what it looks like. But yeah, at KC and home against Los Angeles, that's two pivotal games at the very end of the year. But like I said, I will take the over 9.5.
Yeah, the 9.5 I think is, in my opinion, a good number. For me, it was more of a stay away. I would lean over for this one. I just think with this division, there's going to be a lot of split series, and I think that's could really make this the tightest race of any division in the league. And so I feel like there's going to be a lot of 9-8, 10-7, 11-6 in this. So for me, it's a stay away, but I would lean over just because I think they can be better. You're going to see growth from Knicks. This defense is better. I just think things are just looking up. I think with this team and the Chargers, I think last year was the worst version you're going to get from a Payton and Knicks team and a Harbaugh and Herbert team. I think last year was the worst versions of those. So, yeah, lean over, but for me, it's a stay away for the Broncos. Let's move on to the Chargers, who last season finished with an 11-6 record. It was the first season under Jim Harbaugh, and he was asked to do a lot. I mean, he was brought in to change the culture, get this team turned around, and that he did. You know, they had the reputation of a team that found new ways to fail all the time, and they became a team that found new ways to win, and ended, like I said, going 11-6. Now, the playoff game last season didn't end well for them as they kind of put up probably their worst game of the year, and Herbert's worst game especially. But I like this team. I think they're well-rounded. They're well-coached, obviously, with Harbaugh at the helm. I like now that they have a two-man running back room with the additions of Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton in the draft. So I just like two-man running. I like what the Detroit Lions do with Montgomery and Gibbs. I like what the Buccaneers do. They have like 3 or 4 running backs. So I just like big running back rooms where one guy isn't just getting worn down. And then you have a defense that's led by Khalil Mack and Derwin James Jr. really came on strong last year for him. They led the NFL in fewest points allowed. I think they can do that again. This is just a great defensive division. And I think they have one of the best ones. What are your thoughts on the Chargers coming into 2025?
Yeah, their defense is decent. I will say Khalil Mack is 34 now. And I mean, they lost Joey Bosa, but he was hurt all the time. Still, whenever he did play, he was effective. But and yeah, Derwin James is really good, but they will also be relying very heavily on rookie corners to support that secondary. So that could turn out well for them this year. We don't know how they'll play, but that's always a big question mark going into the year.
Yeah.
But to me, this all comes down to if man can finally start playing like everyone tells me how great he is. By if man, I mean Justin Herbert, because he is very similar to the SEC in football, where they never lose a hypothetical situation. But I mean, yeah, you see it when you watch him. He has lots of talent, unique talent. It's just, and you could say, yes, he's had poor coaching. Still, his 2 playoff games have been disastrous. Obviously, they threw that 4 interception game last year, and then for his first year, they blew a 27-point lead to the Jaguars, who are also usually known as who also have a quarterback that can be labeled as if man sometimes. But I mean, this is make or break for me for if Herbert actually belongs in the Josh Allen, Lamar, and Joe Burrow conversations, because he has Harbaugh. Year 2 Harbaugh. Harbaugh wins everywhere he goes. This is only the second time in Herbert's career that he's retaining a coordinator for a second year. I mean, so yeah, I mean that's terrible for development of a quarterback. So I will give him grace on that, because that just sucks. But now he's at year 2. So Yeah, he's gotta deliver, not just in the regular season again, which he has most of the time, but he's got to at least win one playoff game and show that, okay, yes, I do belong in this elite group that some people put me in, which it's a shame because I like watching him play, but I always think he's like the most overrated guy in the league just because he gets all this unnecessary. He gets put in this unnecessary tier of quarterbacks whenever he hasn't shown
Yeah.
that he truly belongs there. But like I said, it's a shame because I enjoy watching him play. Um, yeah, them and the Broncos, I feel like, are on the exact same tier as teams. Yeah, I would be shocked if those two don't split their series. I'm sure both of those games will come down to the wire, barring any injuries.
But yeah, you know, Herbert's got a rocket arm. You said you enjoy watching him play. I mean, it just like comes out of his hands so fast. And I think back to his weapons. I mean, Lad McConkey is a solid receiver, but he's not a number one. I look at him more of like a slot guy. I don't know that he's had. I mean, what are some of the weapons that he's had that have been
I had to look up who their tight ends were because I forgot, and they still have Will Dissly, and they signed Tyler Conklin in the offseason. So
yeah,
pretty low tier tight end room.
Right. So I don't know that Herbert's a great quarterback. He's got a great coach, but this is a team. I think when you have a Harbaugh team, I mean, look at his team at Michigan. It was built on the ground. It's going to be rough and tumble. I love the O line. They just paid Rashawn Slater. He's the highest paid O lineman, and they drafted Joe Alt last year, and so I really like this O line. I think coming into this season, Herbert should have pretty good protection, but then I just don't know about his weapons.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Running backs, yeah, like we said, are good, and it's kind of unfortunate from an entertainment perspective that he isn't a Harbaugh offense because it does take away some of his throwing, which is what's so spectacular to watch about him. Unlike Bo Nix, who's like the game manager, it's kind of fun to watch that.
Right.
Herbert's throwing it deep and seeing his arm talent, but yeah, it'll be interesting. Their schedule, I hate this so much. The NFL shouldn't have this happen, but the Chargers open up with 3 divisional games. They open their season against Kansas City. Where's that at? Is that Brazil again? Are they doing that? Or are they doing that just to?
That might be international. I'm
international,
not sure.
Yeah, and then at Vegas, and then home against Denver. So yeah, you play half your division games in the first 3 weeks. I think that's dumb. I think two is borderline too long, but 3 is just ridiculous. So yeah, they got to. There's no denying it. They got to come out strong. That's. I mean, the first 3 weeks could ultimately make or break their season. You don't like looking at it that way, but when it's 3 divisional games, I mean, not just 3 division. I mean, it's 3 conference games too, but divisional games too. I mean, that's rough.
Yeah. I have their line at 9.5 right there with the Broncos. What do you lean in here?
So we're gonna reveal our playoff picks later, and it kept coming out for me being the exact same teams as last year. So I was like, I got to make some changes. So I'm gonna go under. I think they're gonna win 9 games.
Okay.
So, I don't see them losing any less than that, but I feel like this is a 9-8 team.
Gotcha. I lean to the over here as
yeah, I mean, like I said, they're just like Denver. I mean,
it's hard. There's a lot of stay away lines for the AFC West, in my opinion. So stay away, but I do lean over. It's -105. There's not it's not plus value on these that I'm going for, but the Chargers for me, I'm over 9.5 for them. Let's go on to one of the most dominant teams in the league for the past, what decade probably. The Kansas City Chiefs. So last year, incredibly, they finished with a 15-2 record, and they went 12-0 in 1-score games.
They really only had 1 loss. They really only had 1 loss all year because that Broncos game at the end of the year didn't count. So, yeah.
Just winning any way they found like blocking field goals, last minute drives, the Bengals not being able to, finish it off. They get the pass interference call. They get the Ravens
The
week 1 with
the
the
yeah,
toe
I was
on
saying
the
like
end
this
zone line. It's just like all
Aiden
these different
O'Connell
ways.
not spiking the ball quick enough.
Right. Oh my gosh. It was fascinating to watch all season. We were just waiting for them to mess up, and outside of one game against Buffalo, who honestly have had their number during the regular season and during the Josh Allen era, it's just been a dominant crew. But the last 6 seasons, the Chiefs have 6 AFC Championship game appearances, 5 AFC titles, and 3 Super Bowls. Now, last year, they, even despite all those one-score games and wearing down the stretch, they were still able to make it to the Super Bowl, but they have a bitter taste coming off of that game. As despite a 15-win season, they got clobbered in the Super Bowl by the stacked Eagles roster. The 12-0 and one-score games, it really masked the injuries at wide receiver, weaknesses at left tackle, and a diminished pass rush until they were exposed by Philly in the Super Bowl. The good thing for them is that Brett Veach, the general manager, really attacked those weaknesses in the offseason. They got the addition of free agent Jalen Moore, who was under the tutelage of Trent Williams in San Francisco for many years. So they got him to come in on the offensive line. They also drafted Josh Simmons from my Ohio State Buckeyes, very versatile O lineman. And they also had 2 picks on the defensive line. The thing that this season's going to come down to is really a return to form, or a hopeful return to form for Patrick Mahomes, who really struggled, honestly, last year behind a shaky O-line, despite being able to, come from behind a couple games and just be able to take those last-minute drives to win a couple games. But they need a better season from him, and I think just a better season from the offense in general.
Yeah, the Eagles absolutely exposed their trench play. And yeah, like any good organization would do when they see that happen, what do? They go after that in the offseason. Will they be better? We don't know yet, but at least they tried. So, and that's what you'd like to see. When it comes to their defense, I feel like even when they're kind of down, it just always feels like Steve Spagnuolo's defense has just always come through when they're needed. Last year they were pretty good. I felt like it was definitely one of Mahomes' better defenses in his tenure there in Kansas City.
Right.
What I want to see is the fun Mahomes return. We have not seen, like, I almost think it's like you said, the O line may have played a factor in it, but I think since Matt Nagy returned and he's kind of been in charge of the offense, it just hasn't been as much fun Mahomes as usual. Like you don't see him go deep as much. The flashy passes, you don't see those too much anymore. It's kind of other than their exciting finishes, the style of play they played with, it was kind of boring for a 15-1 team
Right.
last year. So I feel like, they would be more fun to watch if that kind of Mahomes returned. But if you are tired of the Kansas City spotlight they get every year, unfortunately, it will not be going away because of their 17 games. They only play 4 noon or 1 o'clock Eastern kickoffs, and they don't play one until week 7. So the first 6 weeks of the season, they have a primetime game, which I think is just hilarious. I don't mind. It's fun watching good teams, but I understand why people hate it, but I think it's kind of funny that
you put the stars on the prime time. That's just what you do.
Yeah. But yeah, I think they're still Kansas City. I've seen people claim, like they've claimed every year the past few years, that this will be their fall off season. That's kind of the treatment that the Patriots got in the Brady era. Oh, yep, they showed a little slip up this past year. That means they're going to fall off this next year. Then, yeah, they're inevitable. So I would be shocked if they. I highly, highly doubt they'll go 15-1 again. There's no way they're going to have that kind of luck again. But I still see this as a solid, solid team who will always be there until Mahomes is retired.
Yeah, it was the same thing like you said with the Patriots. As long as Brady and Belichick were there, they weren't going away. And as long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are in Kansas City, they're not going to go away. Um, the defense for me, it was interesting last year because they ranked fourth in scoring while sitting in the middle of the pack in turnovers and sacks. So obviously, Spagnuolo is one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. He probably knows that. He probably knows they're middle of the pack in those spots and has emphasized that. And if they get a few more turnovers, they won't have to be in so many close games because I feel like that really wore them down over the season because there should have been more games where they could have rested some of their high-end starters towards the end of games, and they just never could because it was always these 15-16, 17-20 battles where it was playoff intensity almost every game during the regular season, and I feel like that was another case why they were just out of gas by Super Bowl.
Yeah, not just against good teams, as against bad teams too.
Right.
That Panthers game came down to the wire. Like I said, the Aiden O'Connell game, the Raiders had a chance to kick a field goal to win that game at Kansas City. So yeah, they played down to a lot of their opponents, but they always routinely showed up against their great opponents. They lost to Buffalo. That was still a good game. Yeah, like I said, 15-1. They were definitely. I don't think there's any debate. 50. I'm going to say 15-1 because that last loss at the end of the year didn't count, and because there used to be 16 games in most seasons. By far the worst 15-1 team probably that's ever gone 15-1. But yeah, and they're inevitable, and anyone who's hoping on their downfall, they're going to have to wait probably a few more years.
They're over under sitting at 11.5. What are you leaning towards here?
I have them at 12 wins, so I'll take the over.
Me too. I had them around that 12-13 range. Just looking at their schedule, even if they split some of those series in their division, there's really a lot of winnable games on this schedule, and just the inevitableness of down towards the end of a game, I wouldn't bet against the Chiefs in a close game. So, yeah, I definitely have them at over 11.5 here. But finally, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, who last year finished 4-13. Just another year like they've had for the past since I've been alive, I guess, since I've been watching football.
They have not won a playoff game since 2002.
Okay.
They've only had one winning season in the last 5 years.
Right. So there you go. So it's been kind of just the same pit of despair for the Raiders fan base, whether it was in Oakland or it's now in Vegas. But I think now things are finally looking up. They're under their fourth new regime in 5 years, but this one I really, really like because they've got Pete Carroll. Even if he's only with the team for a few years, he'll be a guy that can change a culture the way that Harbaugh did in LA. They've got John Spytek at general manager, who's one of the most intelligent businessmen, can make really good deals from that spot. And then not just that, but Mark Davis brought in Tom Brady to make a lot of top line decisions for this franchise. And if you're trying to turn things around, that's the group you want. Carroll made a lot of moves. He got his old quarterback in Geno Smith from Seattle. Like I said at the top of this preview, Smith is not a guy that's going to just carry you to a Super Bowl or anything like that, but he is a guy that has a very high floor that from the jump lifts the floor of what this team can do. They also drafted Ashton Jeanty, who's one of the most fun and interesting prospects coming into this new season. He had an amazing run there last year with Boise State, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do in the NFL. And they picked up a lot of other good prospects in the draft as well. But what are your feelings on the Raiders coming into this season with this new regime and the moves that they made?
I like the moves. Unfortunately, they're just in the wrong division.
Right. Yeah.
Which is worrisome because, like you said, Pete Carroll's old, and you don't really
Right.
expect him to be there for that long. I mean, you're just going to have to hope that at least one, more than likely, you need two of the other three teams in the division to have a fall off during Pete Carroll's time, which could happen. But with young quarterbacks and Mahomes and Reed, it seems unlikely. Um, I do think this offense could be fun to watch with Smith, who's not going to lose you too many games, plus Genty, plus Brock Bowers, who was one of the more dynamic rookies last year. Um, yeah, they're going to upset some teams, I feel like, this year. They started off 2-2 last year. Remember they beat Baltimore in week 2?
Yeah.
That made no sense at all. But then they lost 10 in a row. So I do not like their defense. Outside of Max Crosby, I don't think this defense is very good at all. Very inexperienced. That's not to say that could be good in a couple of years, but in a division with Mahomes and Herbert and Sean Payton led Broncos team, it's not, you're playing with fire there, having kind of an inexperienced defense. So they're not going to be near as bad as last year. If you put them in either of the South divisions, AFC or NFC, I feel like you could have a conversation of them winning the division. I don't think they would be favored, but you could realistically see it happen. Here, there's just no chance. All the cards are stacked against them.
Yeah. There's no inkling in my mind that this is like a Super Bowl contending team, even a playoff contending team. This is still a few years off of what they could be. But this is a year that that Raiders fans should get excited about, at least seeing some of these young prospects like Genty, like Bowers. Obviously, Max Crosby is one of the best defensive ends in the league, and he's going to be entertaining on the field. And then Geno Smith is probably going to be the best quarterback they've had since who?
Since Derek Carr, that 1 year he got some MVP votes. And
right.
15 or 16, whatever, 2016.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's stability there now. And Smith could be the quarterback for a few years here and with the Raiders. So he immediately lifts the floor of the QB room. I mean, it's not Aiden O'Connell anymore is your starter. Yeah. I just think there's a lot more excitement around this team. It's not going to translate to a bunch of wins and a division title or anything like that. But I think this is all about a year of like seeing what you have and looking towards the future. That's what I look at with this Raiders team, and it could be a lot of fun just to watch on the 1:00 slate. Whoever they're playing, you could see some really cool things happen. But with this line, what are you seeing for the line?
One more thing to point out: they lost Christian Wilkinson. That leaves a massive hole in the defensive tackle. Unfortunately, I mean, he was a pretty affectionate guy based off reports today. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Apparently some players aren't comfortable with him kissing the tops of their heads,
right.
which I thought was a troll headline, but it was actually real. I don't. Nothing wrong with giving a kiss to the top of the head to the fellas, as long as you say no homo. So that's what the issue is.
Yeah. So I see the line is sitting at 7.5 for this team.
Oh, I had it 6.5, and
yeah, that's 6.5.
I wasn't. That was a stay away from me. If it's 7.5, that's for sure under for me.
Yeah. It's minus 170. I'm seeing on FanDuel for under 7.5.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not gonna predict this team's gonna have a winning record or anything like that. So I would go under just on any line. It's going to be a fun team to watch, but they're not going to win a ton of games.
No, I will say one thing. I will point out. You mentioned Tom Brady. You say that is a guy you want in the room. Unfortunately, well, I'm not going to say unfortunately yet, but if you look at the other GOAT in the other sport, Michael Jordan, his tenure with the Charlotte Hornets with the Charlotte Hornets was pretty pitiful. So just a fair warning, just because you're the GOAT playing does not necessarily mean you could be a great front office guy.
I think he's done some good things already with them, but we'll see what happens given his, give it a few more years, and we'll see what he's able to do with the franchise. But
I guess he's still announcing games this year, right?
yeah, that was a bit of a topic of discussion over last season with, how is he going to be able to like interview teams to get inside scoops to be able to report and say things on air, how that conflicts with his position with the Raiders. We'll see if that continues on or what kind of, you know what things Roger Goodell is gonna try to put on him to make it harder for him to run things with the Raiders. So we'll see what
Well, Brady
happens there.
does that. Brady has a lot of leverage though, being the goat of the sport. So
Exactly.
stop it.
Exactly. Before we get into our playoff predictions, if you're listening on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. That's at KL Sports Huddle. If you're listening on Spotify, go ahead and give us a follow and a rating and review. We're also on Instagram. That's at Huddle KL Sports. You can see some of our content in short snippets as well as any breaking news in the sports world. So we're going to do a little bit of playoff prediction for the AFC side only. So we get 7 teams that make the playoffs from each conference. So give me your division winners and then your 3 wild card teams.
Okay, AFC East. I'm just going to go seed by seed.
Yeah.
My 1 seed, I have the Bills. We talked about when we did the AFC East. Their schedule just really is favorable for from a team that was a division winner last year. Just turned out really favorable for them. So I have them getting the 1 seed. I have Kansas City at 12 wins getting the 2 seed. I actually have Houston as the 3 and Baltimore as the 4.
Okay.
I mentioned in the AFC North, that was kind of my bold prediction there, is that division is going to be so bloody that the winner of that was going to be like 10-7.
Right.
And but I think Baltimore comes out with that, but just get the 4 seed behind Houston. And then my wild cards, so I'm already unoriginal because those are the division winners last year, just in a different order. I almost came up with the same wild card teams too, but I had to make changes, just one change. I am high on Denver. I have them as the number 1 wild card team. I think they can reach that 10-11 win mark. I think they're a bigger threat just by the way they're structured to the Chiefs. I don't think they'll overtake the Chiefs in the division, but I do think they're the bigger threat. And then I think there's going to be like a 3-way battle at 9. I think there's going to be a 3-way tie at 9 and 8, and between Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and the Chargers. And I just get a huge lightning bolt just outside my window. I don't think it was just not too far from here, but anyways,
I saw the flash on the screen.
I saw the actual.
The Chargers want you to pick them. I think that's
and
what
I'm not. I'm not. I had Cincinnati at 6 and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's inevitable. I feel the same way I feel like them as I do about Kansas City until they prove that they aren't. Kansas City until they prove that they can't win the division. I'm always going to pick them. Pittsburgh until they can prove that they can't play the most.
You gave in to the Steelers. Well, for me, I got Buffalo obviously at the 1 seed. They'll win the AFC East for me, and then I do have the Chiefs as the 2 seed, Ravens 3, Texans 4. So I got the same division winners. As far as wild card teams, I did go Chargers, Bengals, Broncos. So I got both of the AFC West teams that I wanted to get in there, as well as my Bengals. I don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be able to survive going through the AFC North. So that's my picks there for the division winners and the wild card teams. I'll go ahead and do my AFC champion. I think Logan lost power off that last lightning bolt, so I'll finish it up here. We'll try to see if we can get him back on. But my AFC champion, I did go with the Bills. They're my 1 seed. I think they're finally they've been knocking on the door for many, many years now under Josh Allen, and I think that he can finally get it done for him this season. The Chiefs, they've been inevitable. They keep winning AFC title games. But I think if they have another season where they have to play a bunch of one-score games, it's going to be really rough on them, and they won't make it through. So I don't see the Chiefs doing it again, especially when they don't have the 1 seed and they're not going to be able to get that easier game in that first matchup that they have in the playoffs. So my pick is the Buffalo Bills at plus 340. And we will wait here until we can get Logan back on.
Back? Okay.
All right. We got him back. We got Logan back. Power went out, right?
Yes. I just checked the weather radar. I didn't expect to be under a huge thunderstorm warning right now, but I think it is slowly drifting away. So
that is what you get for not picking the Chargers in your playoffs. That was immediate. That was immediate.
The gods of Dan Fouts and Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson, came down and weren't happy with that pick. But just a quick recap: Buffalo, Kansas City, Houston, Baltimore, division winners, and then Denver, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh. Round out my wild card with the Chargers just missing out due to tiebreakers.
Right. While you were away, I told the audience my pick, so I went with the same division winners, except I had the Texans as the 4 seed. Went Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, Texans. So it was just a slight difference from you. My wild card teams, I did have Chargers, Bengals, Broncos. I do think we're getting 3 AFC West teams, and we're getting the Bengals in there this season when they just missed out last year. I don't think with the Steelers, Rodgers isn't going to make it a full season through that AFC North, and it's going to derail him.
I'm going to say that too, but I was just going to say somehow, some way, they would still find a way to just win in the ugliest versions possible.
With Rudolph.
Somehow make it as a 7th seed and then just get slaughtered by Kansas City or Buffalo or whoever.
Yep. My AFC champion, I also went ahead and told mine. It is Buffalo. I'm finally picking them to just break through this season. They've been knocking on the door for many seasons now, and I just think if the Chiefs have a bunch of one-score games again this year, it could be taxing, especially on the older guys, especially someone like Travis Kelce, who's a very important piece on their offense. So I don't think the Chiefs, especially not being the 1 seed and getting an easier game in that first matchup, I don't think they make it through the AFC. The Bills are finally going to break through this year.
I also had Buffalo over Kansas City in the AFC championship. I just wanted to make a note. So you mentioned earlier, and I was going to bring this up when I mentioned my AFC championship prediction, but Buffalo's owned Kansas City the last 4 years in the regular season, but they're 0-3 in the playoffs in that span against Kansas City. I think it's going to completely reverse. I believe Kansas City will beat Buffalo in the regular season, but come playoff time, with Buffalo, home field advantage. I know they've had that once in the past and lost to Kansas City, but I think this time, in front of the Buffalo faithful, they will pull out a close one against Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. One little note on Kansas City, I think I saw this yesterday. If they will tie the Patriots if they make the AFC Championship this year for most consecutive AFC title games made at 8, I believe. So, which I believe will happen. Baltimore, awesome. Can't trust Baltimore, can't trust Houston yet.
Nope.
And none of those wild card teams. Cincinnati's the only one who's proven that they can. But they also had to play the Titans as that 1 seed that 1 year, and I think they kind of lucked into that.
Bit of a tougher road this time around if they do it. Well, there you have it. We've gotten through the AFC conference. So next week we will be moving on to the NFC. We've got one half of our Super Bowl pick ready to go, and we'll continue on through the next 4 weeks as we try to just go right into the NFL regular season with these previews in tow. Now we're going to switch gears a bit, quite a bit. With not much going on, in the sports world right now. We've got, baseball games every day, but we had news last week that a WWE legend, Hulk Hogan, passed away at 71 years old. He had a cardiac arrest, and just wanted to kind of look back at his importance to WWE and just sports entertainment, as well as looking back at some of the wrestlers that we grew up watching when we were little. But when I think about when I used to watch it, I used to watch it with my dad all the time. We'd stay up on Monday night and watch Monday Night Raw. And I grew up on like WWE has like very distinct eras that they've marked, that they've labeled. Other sport like sports, you really can't do that. Like everything's subjective, but with this being an entertainment industry, it's all a show. They do have these distinct eras, and I really grew up on like the ruthless aggression / the PG eras, which is really just like the 2000s to early 2010s. And my guys were like John Cena, Batista, Triple H, Randy Orton, Edge. That was kind of the group that I watched growing up. Haven't really been watching the past decade or so. I think it's entertainment wrestling like this might just be one of those things where you grow up watching the people you really like, and then once those guys kind of fade out,
and become movie stars.
Right. They all do pretty much. But it all started really with this guy and Hulk Hogan back in the golden era, which was basically 1980 to around 1993. He was one of the main cogs, really the main cog of the rise of what was then known the WWF. He was really the poster boy for it. He had the charisma. He was entertaining. He was massive at 6. He had that 6'7" frame. It was just like this godlike creature whenever he stepped out onto the ring. He could really sell a match. He was that entertaining, and he had, in that era, he had classic matches against fellow wrestlers like Macho Man Randy Savage, Andre the Giant, the Ultimate Warrior, and those were some of, like, you can go on, like, if you have a Peacock subscription, you can go back and watch any match from that era. It's pretty cool. He famously turned heel, which is basically like becoming a villain that people hate, in 1996 when he joined this group called the NWO. And so he was kind of known as Hollywood Hogan at that time. So just he's put on different faces in this entertainment business, but he is a legend in this industry, and he will be remembered very fondly for his time as a wrestler.
Yeah, I hate all people. I mean, yes, he was not a perfect guy. Yeah, he had that scandal back in the 2000s about, let me say in some racially sensitive terms, which don't condone that, but everybody had their flaws. Like we don't look at it. When Kobe passed away, we didn't name all of his flaws and stuff. We remembered all the greatness they gave us, and that's how we should do with Hulk Hogan. Yeah, he was a staple of the 1980s. I didn't watch, obviously didn't grow up in that time. I didn't watch any 80s wrestling, but I am a huge fan of Rocky 3, and he does have a great him, and when I think he goes by the name Thunder Lips, and he fights Rocky Balboa in that charity match. That's one of the more entertaining scenes in the Rocky franchise. So I might have to watch that this week in honor of him. But that
was probably
go ahead.
Yeah. That was probably the first time I ever saw him or became aware of him, obviously because I didn't grow up watching him, but that was probably my first introduction to him, and then my dad kind of introduced me to some of his fights.
I had heard of him. Like my uncles grew up with him, and like they had this action figure of him like at my grandparents' house. So like I knew who he was, but then first time I ever actually saw him on TV or in action, I watched Rocky 3 for the first time. But we'll miss the T-shirt ripping, miss the brother line, but I think how old was he? 71. Yeah. Too young, but honestly, it's a pretty long life for a wrestler.
Right, and I mean, you have to wonder, like, with cardiac arrest, obviously steroid use over his time as a wrestler definitely would have attributed to that. And so that you kind of worry about it with some of the guys that we grew up, like how long their lives are going to be. But who do you think because I see Hulk Hogan as maybe like the most popular wrestler of all time. Do you think there's someone that rivals that? I mean, I know we have Cena, there's The Rock, but I see them more having gained more popularity through movies. I wonder if there's anyone that rivals what Hulk Hogan
I
did
think
during his
The
time.
Rock for sure gained more popularity through movies.
Yeah.
Cena has just been always. I know he's seen as in movies and stuff, but I don't know. And I don't know if I compare him to Hogan, but he's up there for sure because he's always been a staple of wrestling. He's like any kid who like followed wrestling, he was always their idol. Uh, like the staple of Make a Wish, like the poor kids who are in the hospital for the Make a Wish program, staple of that because so many kids love John Cena. He was an icon for a lot of kids growing up in the 2000s and 2010s. So I would say Cena's the closest. Hard to compare. I don't know enough about Hogan's day back in the 80s and 90s to compare it. But yeah, I would say Cena in at least the last. I would say The Rock's definitely more popular now, but like we said, that's when you're
a lot of that's through
when you play Black Adam, everyone's favorite movie. It's
right. Well, he'll be missed definitely in that industry and by any of his fans. I know the older generations definitely probably it hit them probably harder than maybe our generation, but man, that the golden era, that was 80s, that was when it was really about the wrestling. And then you go into like the Attitude Era. During that era, they got away with so much on air, on live TV. It's crazy. And then obviously when you get to the PG era, which is more around when I started watching and was able to watch, that's when it became a little easier for me to watch. They toned it back a little bit on what they got away with on TV. But yeah, it all started with Hogan. He's the one who catapulted this industry and got its popularity. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for us here. We'll finish on that note. We had a little bit technical difficulties with Logan.
Mother Nature's undefeated.
Yeah, the Dan Fouts was coming for him with that one. But we'll be back next week with another division preview. We've got some PGA Tour playoffs coming up. I think we've got the FedEx Cup playoffs coming. We'll see if we do a little bit of a preview of that, or maybe just some discussions on Ryder Cup standings, which that are still in play, are still in effect, and could change based on these next couple tournaments. But yeah, that'll do it for us. We'll see you guys back here next week previewing the NFC East. So Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, Commanders fans, definitely tune in next week for y'all. But we'll catch you next week.